viewer. Here we are in front of the pig pen and the bread oven. I'm just going to try and trim down some of the dead nettles that are killed with weed killer. So if I can clear some flat area around the two of these, then soon in springtime it'll be another opportunity to get in the tractor with the flail to just decimate the ground before we hopefully start to think about putting in the septic tank, because the soakaway field goes in the middle of the garden area and a pipe down to the septic tank. So need to get that done, get some sort of flat areas. Once these are flat, when we flail all of that, at least we'll have a flat area up here where we can perhaps rake some of the material up and add it to the compost pile. Since the last visit, you may remember the cherry tree which is on the boundary just over here. There was another tree which was just behind what we call the writer's shed, just over there. It's fallen over. It broke in half on the trunk. So there'll be another flatbed truck and another bit of sawing up wood. So let me get moving. I'll bet you anything you want the strimmers don't want to start because the petrol's probably cold or out of date or whatever, but we'll give it a try. Grim Reaper descends on the buffalo farm. I'm just going to go and get the shears for some of that tufty bit. The grass is so wet, it just isn't cutting properly. Or I'm not doing it right. So, I'll find some shears. excuse the wind, it is a bit blustery. That's why the wind blew the tripod over. But anyway, here we are by the side of the bread oven, and you can see all of the ivy that is all over this end stone wall and up to the chimney. So you may remember that inside you can see the cavity there for the bread oven. That's the entrance to the bread oven, and the bit that gets hot is this bit round the back. Now I can see some stone wall up here. I have a nasty feeling that the rest of it has caved in, but we'll soon find out. Anyway, tripod's fallen over again. Time to think of something else to do. Well, this is the bit that we have laughingly been calling the writer's shed, or writing shed. And in between being here last time and just turning up yesterday evening, discovered this tree right here on the ground. And I was looking at it thinking, where on earth has that come from? I thought, well, maybe it's broken off of that cherry tree. But it all looks pretty good up there. So it's not that. So I was wandering around the back here, trying to figure out if the farmer had maybe thrown it over the hedge. Maybe it had fallen off the cherry tree onto his side. But there you can see the stump that it came from. It's severed halfway up the trunk and fell into the garden. I think, by the looks of things, it may have had a bit of a rub against the back of the writing shed. So might have some repair work to do on that as well. Anyway, we're doing gardening stuff despite the fact it's very, very wet. In the distance over there, Joe is attacking all the brambles on the hedge. And whilst she's doing that, I've been clearing the gap between the bread oven and the cherry tree, so we can get close enough to the hedge or fence that we can see behind the bread oven. And I also use the scythe on the dead nettles to try and flatten that area there. I think that all of this area here is so thick and knotted with brambles and tufts of grass that I have a feeling we're just going to have to rent the tractor with the flail again, drive around it and decimate it. But it's so wet and slippery at the moment, I have a bad feeling I would probably slip over on the tractor, so we might wait for a few days to do that. Okay, on we go. Well, that's tidier. But then again, it's only about 1/10 of all of that. Well, actually, a lot less than that. I'm going to have to do something with that apple tree stump. The bits that I cut down, I'm going to move to one side so that if we do rent the flail again, we don't get that stumbled over. So, things to do. I'll turn you and you can watch me struggle. Rain again, so we may have to go inside and do something indoors. I'm going to take the useless strimmers, despite the fact they're Ryobi, no casting aspersions on Ryobi. Take the strimmers inside, leave them there. It's probably the fault of the petrol because it's old. You can come inside if you like. There's Joe. Wait. We went inside and Joe was saying how difficult it was to use the hand shears to cut the brambles away from the fence. So I thought I'd cheat and use the electric hedge trimmer. certain age, you may remember a story called Brer Rabbit, where he goes and hides in a briar patch. Check this out. So this is the back fence, which had been tangled up with briars for many, many years, probably 30 or more years. Although we're looking into the sunshine, that's a briar patch. If I find Brer Rabbit in there, I'll let you know. Anyway, I'm going to try and pick up some of this chopped up briar, and I'm going to connect up that shredder and see if I can shred some of it so that it's not so bloody awkward. Right, carry on. Frankly, that was an exercise in sheer frustration. The hole at the top of the shredder was way too small for the brambles, which kept on getting snagged as they were pushed in. Hopeless, really. As if everything else that you've just seen wasn't frustrating enough, when we arrived for this trip and had our usual walk around the place, we discovered that one of the walls of the Colombage barn had fallen off. Hey-ho. If you want to perk up my spirits, you could always subscribe and hit the thumbs up, perhaps even leave a comment. See you soon.